Hi again, I'm Stollenwerk, and in this section of our series I want to shed some light on the political relevance of factuality, truth and untruth. In our MOOC series you have learned a lot about the spread of mis- and disinformation. You've heard about how scientific articles of low quality are used as sources for misinformation. And we have touched on the role of news media in spreading trustworthy information and scientific findings. Journalism, of course, plays an important role in democracies, by informing the public, by enabling the formation of opinions, and by keeping those in power under constant scrutiny. But does society also need to have the same view of what is true and what is not? Aren't different interpretations of reality totally fine? After all, science itself does not always agree. Isn't that something democracy has to cope with? Well, it's not a simple question. And the acceptance of factual truth is a very fundamental question of politics. There are many ways to approach the question of why access to factually correct information is relevant for societies and how this access should be organized. One political thinker who touched on it from an interesting angle is German political theorist Hannah Arendt. Arendt witnessed the failure of society as a refugee of the Third Reich and as a survivor of the Shoah. She dealt extensively with the relationship between truth and politics. In February 1967, Arendt published an essay in the New Yorker magazine. She addressed the question of how truth and politics are related. Her analysis is still very relevant today because it can help us grasp the dangers of spreading mis- and disinformation. To understand why untruth becomes dangerous, Arendt distinguishes between two forms of truth. On the one hand, there are rational truth. As mathematical or philosophical truth, they are universal and largely outside politics. An example for such a truth is the fact that 1 + 1 = 2. On the other hand, there are factual truths. They concern concrete events in the world and depend on evidence, witnesses, and records. And also, Arendt insists on a clear distinction between two central categories of untruth. One is the error, a false statement without the intention to deceive that can usually be corrected. And the other one is the lie, a deliberate denial or distortion of a known fact. For Arendt, factual truth are politically vulnerable to lies. Politics should not argue about truth, she argues, but only about opinions based on facts. Different opinions are legitimate only as long as they respect the integrity of shared facts. Without common facts, political disagreement loses its foundation. Arendt makes a striking claim. She regards the ability to lie as a prerequisite to human freedom. And this thought goes like this. The imagination that allows us to misrepresent reality also allows us to change it through action. In this sense, lying is a condition of political action and freedom. That means in return that when lies are no longer distinguishable from truth, because factual truth is blurred or denied, lying is not specific anymore, and then freedom itself is endangered. For her, the greatest danger is not false information, but the loss of a shared reality as a consequence of constant lying and an erosion of trust. What is at stake, Arendt argued back then, is factual reality itself. A society can survive error and even lies, but it cannot survive the collapse of the distinction between fact and opinion. If we now link this to the debates of our time, we could ask how modern technology supports the spread of mis- and disinformation. Misinformation and disinformation create doubt, confusion, and ambiguity about what we can count as a fact. Much misinformation does not include obvious lies. It often mixes correct details with misleading frames, omissions, or false causal links. This blurring makes corrections difficult and shifts debate from facts to interpretations. However, most people cannot independently verify complex scientific, medical, or geopolitical claims. And this creates a structural dependency on intermediaries like science communicators and journalists. Scientific truth exists publicly only if it is communicated, contextualized, and made accessible. Scientific misinformation exploits exactly this vulnerability. It does not usually deny science outright. Instead, it questions credibility, exaggerates uncertainty, or blurs the line between evidence and opinion. In doing so, scientific misinformation does not primarily spread false facts. It undermines confidence in the very idea that scientific facts can be known at all. This is precisely the danger Arendt warned about, the erosion of a shared factual world. Because a society without access to trustworthy information and without shared facts lives in great danger. We hope this gives you some food for thought, and thank you for watching.